I'm the first lady of the Gu family. My foppish father brought back a girl who looked 7 times similar to him and said I was carried by mistake. The girl looked at me condescendingly and called me a thief, taking up more than 20 years of her honorable life and asking me to be a slave to her to atone for my sins. But all of Gu's money, I earned it all. When I received the call from my father, I was still hobnobbing with my partner. When I hurried home, my mother was hugging a plainly dressed girl with red eyes. My father stood in front of the window, the cigarette at his fingertips flickering with scarlet firelight. The scene was very quiet, with only the sound of the mother sobbing. The girl looked up and I was surprised for a moment. She looked like both her mother and father, like a fusion of them, with slightly blinking almond eyes, watery eyes, and stubbornness in her innocence. When my mother saw me, she wiped her tears and threw a piece of information in front of me. Her tone could not hide her disgust. Gu Si Miao, you are not our child. I hope you recognize reality. Don't think about things that don't belong to you. Picking up the stack of information, it was the paternity test of my father, mother and I, and it was written there is no parentage. And on the certificate of paternity, there is a strange name, Guanchuan. My brain was buzzing. It turned out that the place where I had lived for 24 years was not home. I was just a fake Qinjin who had been carried by mistake, and this girl standing in front of me was the biological child of my father and mother. Mom, after all, my sister has been living at home for so many years, give her some time to adapt. Gu Anchuan hid behind her mother's back, a flash of cunning in her eyes. Her mother was badly touched by her kindness and hugged her without letting go. Chun, don't talk nonsense, you've suffered outside all these years. How can you let this thief continue to enjoy the life that belongs to you? What a mother's kindness and son's filial piety. They decided my future in a few words. To the end, I did not insert a word, living outsiders. Father extinguished the cigarette, on this farce painted. We're all family, what's the big deal? Si Miao, he said. Si Miao, and Chun the first day back, a lot of things do not understand. Tomorrow you take her to the company, learn well. I was silent for a moment. Good. I saw my father breathe a sigh of relief and look at me with a familiar light contempt hanging from the tips of his eyes. My father was a foppish second-generation rich man, and my mother was a Cinderella who had married into a wealthy family, both of whom only knew how to eat, drink, and have fun. Grandfather considered them, and on his deathbed handed the company over to me over my father. Father has been dissatisfied with me for a long time. But he didn't know that when the company was handed over to me, it was a mess. Huge and time-consuming projects like the gold-swallowing beast ate up all the liquidity, but the revenue was slow to come in. At the worst time, even the wages of the staff cannot afford to pay. It is I begged my brother technology into the shares, to come to the laboratory of the latest research results, with the new technology and partners signed a betting agreement, Gu's in order to hold on to today. Over the past 4 years, I've been carrying a heavy load, staying up the deepest nights, and drinking the most wine with the partners. Because I'm the only one who can hold up the lintel. The moment I saw Gu Anchuan, I was a little relieved. Gu's this mess, but finally someone is going to take over. Before returning home, I was negotiating a new round of cooperation with an important partner. Because of a phone call from my father, I hoofed it home, and the collaborator was already dissatisfied, so I informed my assistant to buy the collaborator a reparation gift. Rubbing my temples, I pondered over the countermeasures for the hard battle to be fought tomorrow. Signing this contract will guarantee Gu's 2 years of trouble-free life, so long enough for Gu Anchuan to hold the railings on the road. The company entered into benign operation. As long as there are no major problems, even if it can't restore its former glory, there is no problem to maintain the Gu family's food and drink. Ding, my WeChat rang. Senior asked me when the contract for the new technology would be signed. I pondered for a moment and returned, let's put it aside for now, I might have to break away from Gu. The next second, the phone rang, and the elder brother on the other side's voice leaped with a little hesitation. Si Miao, what happened? The next morning, it was clear that it was already the time agreed upon yesterday, but Gu Anchuan's shadow was late in the living room. I looked at my watch and instructed the maid to go to her room and knock on the door. The maid wiped the table herself, as if she hadn't heard, and muttered softly, obviously a country mongrel, still posing as a lady. Time is up, I no longer wait, turn around and leave. Office door was violently kicked open, my mother came in furiously, pointing at my nose and cursing, "Goosey meow, what kind of heart do you have? Think you can continue to hog Purity's stuff by denying her access to work?" Gu Anchuan stood behind her, her pair of almond eyes as red as rabbits, looking at me accusingly. The agreement was for 8 o'clock, and I waited until 8:10. I put down the papers in my hands and spoke softly. My mother was still angry. "Goosey meow, please recognize yourself, you are not a member of the Gu family, after that the entire Gu family is pure. Don't play mind games with me." She opened her teeth and claws like a mother hen protecting her young. Mother and daughter for more than 20 years, she has always been faint towards me, in the family usually when there is no such person as me. I did not expect that she would be able to exude such a strong and colorful motherly love. Is it just because of blood? Today, you first take Pure around the company and get to know the people, then report back to Pure about the work you have in hand and let her take over. My mother commanded condescendingly, saying that, and looking towards me with incomparable contempt. "Goosey meow, don't take on porcelain work without a diamond drill. Your grandfather had tens of millions of dividends every year before he handed the company over to you, and since it came to you, you've only had enough money to listen to a sound every year. Our Pure is a high school student in the finance industry, she will definitely be able to run the company in a decent manner." She directly arranged for her assistant to move a desk to my office, placing it next to my desk and having Gu Anchuan sit next to me. The assistant glanced at me and saw me nod before going to get things done. There was a lot of talk outside the office. I knew that in 10 minutes, the matter of the real and fake Tianjin would have spread throughout the company. This was the reason why my mother had come with so much fanfare. I sighed, maybe they didn't know that the company's top brass rumoring this odd personnel change without any padding would cause the share price to plummet. It wasn't my money that would be lost, after all, it's not like I'm taking dividends on my shares. After her mother left, the aggression on Gu Anchuan's face was suddenly collected. She was smug, "Watch, everything you robbed me of, you'll have to double it back." I lowered my eyes. What things did I rob? Is it the neglect of my parents for more than 20 years, or is it the heavy workload? Suddenly, I wanted to laugh a little. "Don't worry, I can leave Gu to you." A punch in the cotton, Gu Anchuan breath is not up, face is holding red. And then looked at me suspiciously, seemingly deciding that I was pulling some kind of trick. Before she continued to scream, I called the assistant, let the assistant to practice the mother's command, "The company's project information are taken to her to see, and take her to the company, so that everyone recognized, do the real and fake Tianjin news. Half-covered door farce, which is not as sure as directly see the person." Since I was a child, I have learned that I don't confront people, but only hit the nail on the head. Since this matter sooner or later will be spread out, why don't I add fire to it, and it's not sorry that they came to make this mess today. In less than 2 hours, all kinds of cooperation companies inquiry phone I received a few, every time asked about the matter of real and fake Tianjin, I stammered in sad reply, "This is the company's internal confidentiality, forgive me for not being able to answer your question, sorry." When my assistant came to report to work, I had just finished handling Gu's work, leaving behind detailed and complete handover information. As I left, I looked back at Gu's office space a couple of times more, a little disappointed that I was leaving. Although this place has carried my blood and tears, it has also allowed me to grow a lot. In my afterglow, I saw Gu Anchuan's smug smile. What is she up to again? Let her be, I don't want to make a scene. Carrying the atonement gift I bought for the cooperator who missed his appointment last night, I stepped into the private room of the agreed hotel. The cooperator opened the box and turned green when he saw the banana peel inside. I was also shocked. Where was my compensation watch worth 300,000 or so? If this is Gu's work ethic, our cooperation can only end here. He hung back, his gaze lingering on me for a moment, and brushed his sleeve away. My father's news was quick, and before I even returned to Gu's house, he called to split my head and angrily scold me, telling me to get my arse back in a hurry. As soon as I entered, the tea light bloomed in front of me, splashing my trousers. Gu Ximiao, what are you doing? You can't even do such a simple cooperation renewal? My mother responded in a conspiratorial manner, if you can't do it, you have to admit it, don't occupy the latrine and not shit. Dad, you shouldn't be anxious either, sister might have been affected by the recent events and didn't deal with work matters well. Gu Anchuan lowered her eyes and said timidly. If only I hadn't come back, it wouldn't have affected my sister. What business is it of yours? Pure Chun, a fake is a fake, if you worry about her, who will worry about you? Mother ate this up and hastened to comfort. From now on, leave the company's affairs to Pure, you'll just stay home and think about it behind closed doors. Father sealed the deal. I was still a little worried about the future of Gu's company, but by such a fuss, my emotions instantly froze to the freezing point, and I directly threw the box with the banana peel into my father's face. Fine, I don't care how a gift to a cooperator turned into a banana peel, you guys can find out for yourselves. Find out who in the end has saved their hearts not to let Gu be good. Saying that, I pointed my gaze towards Gu Anchuan's wrist. There was a delicate men's watch on it. The strap was loosely stuck on her small hand, and it was out of place. Gu Anchuan was startled and hastily hid her hand behind her back. I snorted and turned to go upstairs. From downstairs came the sound of my mother's furious scolding. What does she mean? Saying a few words to her and she's still not happy about it. We've raised her for more than 20 years, and there's no filial piety at all. It's a good thing we don't expect her to provide for us, otherwise we might not be able to do anything to us in the future. And Gu Anchuan's dainty voice, Mom and Dad, don't be sad, there's still me. I thought I would be sad. But strangely enough, my heart was unusually calm, as if I had expected this. From the time I left without waiting for anyone. From the time I purposely left a gift for my cooperation partner in the office without leaving anyone in the office. What should be done and what should not be done, obviously, this real gold heart does not count. I didn't force her to do anything, everything was her choice. Instead of focusing on how to take over the company, she sees me as her imaginary enemy and is obsessed with pleasing her parents, pretending to be a good girl and being lazy and greedy. Such a person, even if she took over Gu at its peak, she would only be able to watch Gu sunset. Gu has no future. At this moment, I have an incomparably clear perception. After thinking about it, I still gave drafted 2 or 3 professional managers' names, contact information, personality and other information, ready to take it to my father as a second choice. Knocking sound came from the door, I opened the door, it was my father standing there with a glass of milk, with some embarrassment on his face. Ximiao, just now it was my father who was too anxious, wrongly blamed you. You too, how can you just leave something so important lying around? Said Ximiao, again with blame and complaint. She could have chosen not to steal it. Ximiao, your sister also had a hard life, not being around us since she was a child, she hasn't seen any good things. This time it's her fault, in a few days it happens to be your birthday, I'll organize a birthday banquet for you, you take her to recognize her, and by the way, you can also invite Old Lu and apologize to him. Old Lu is none other than the cooperator who whisked away today. Yes, it's still about Gu Anchuan. I've already decided that she can't hold up the wall, but as a parent, it's always the case that you don't turn back until you hit the south wall. Good. At this time I did not think that behind this bit of twisted affection was a huge conspiracy. On the day of the birthday banquet, I changed into the high-fashion dress that I had booked a few months earlier and put on my makeup. When I came to the hall on the ground floor, Gu Anchuan was looking like a flower butterfly, wearing a set of bustier and deep backless fishtail dress, drawing a set of French Big Smoky, and rushing at me with a smug look. The nightclub lady are not as dusty as her. Looking at my mother with eyes full of admiration, I felt a burst of suffocation. My mother, because of her origin, did not systematically learn the etiquette of all kinds of formal occasions, and even more so, because my father is not the head of Gu's, and no one invited her to participate in it, her aesthetics is still stuck in all kinds of celebrities walking on the catwalk. Wearing this kind of clothes to a dinner party was definitely rude. I suggest you go change your clothes. I kindly reminded. Before the words were finished, Gu Onchuan looked as if she had been stepped on in pain, and directly screamed away, "This is the family's seasonal limited edition, Mother specially bought it for me. Sister, you're not jealous, are you?" Mother grunted, "Some people just can't see others as good. Let's go, don't dilly-dally, who knows what some people are up to." At the dinner, everything was organized. I was talking decently with all the business tycoons, and Gu Onchuan stood behind me like a prying ghost. Soon she was on fire, dragging me into the shadows and questioning me in a cold voice. "Gu Simeon, what do you mean? Have you forgotten what Mom and Dad said? Didn't I bring you to recognize people? You deliberately chatted with them about something I couldn't understand." "Gu Simeon, I'll tell Dad if you keep this up. No one did it on purpose. Those people are the ones our Gu clan wants and needs to climb up to, and I have to deliberately find topics they're interested in talking about. All we talked about was cooperative business. It was all in the information I gave you that day." I am very calm. "Gu Si Miao. You." She was furious and turned to laugh away in a conspiratorial manner. "Don't be complacent. Dad and I said that we're going to announce our identities in front of everyone today. Let's see who they actually ignore then." My eyelids twitched slightly. If I wasn't the CEO of the Gu clan and was just the eldest miss of the Gu clan, this matter would indeed be enough for them to take me to task. It seemed that my mother and father really didn't care about the running of the company at all. In just 1 week, the company's market value has already evaporated by 1/10. Because of the rumor of the real or fake Tianjin. A small sigh. Once again into the Big Brother circle, I no longer talk about Gu's related topics, but instead talk about the senior brother's new technology. Just a moment ago, the crowd was still interested in the feint, immediately surrounded. After speaking with a dry mouth, I beckoned the waiter and took a glass of lemonade from his tray. "Drink a few mouthfuls." The afterglow glimpsed the waiter carrying the rest of the water hurriedly left, gradually becoming a shadow. Shadow? My consciousness slowly blurred. I heard my father's impassioned announcement of Gu Onchuan's identity on the hosting stage, and I heard faintly murmuring voices a few meters away, all of which seemed to be coming from a very distant place. Someone seemed to be watching me, and then again, they didn't. The entire world swirled around and consciousness drifted away. Before my consciousness became completely chaotic, my fingers trembled as I quickly pressed on my mobile phone. After typing out a string of incoherent gibberish, it was knocked out of my hand and crashed to the ground with a dull thud. A male voice rang in my ear. "Miss Gu? Miss Gu? What's wrong with you?" It was a buzzing sound, not very clear. He grabbed my arm and led me aside. My eyes went black and my consciousness was completely plunged into endless darkness. Pain flooded every part of my body. Like pins and needles, like wax, dense, flooding from the cracks of the bones. Consciousness was like struggling through a lucid dream that wouldn't wake up. The limbs were heavy as hell. It seemed to me that I was seeing Gu Onchuan walking step by step like me with a knife, her malicious, sinister gaze roving over me. The sharp voice seemed to be saying, "Let you rob me, I'll let you die." After a moment of weightlessness from falling through the air, I awoke as if I had been hit hard on the ground. Opening my eyes, the incandescent light burned my eyes. The unfamiliar arrangement, the person who deliberately approached before losing consciousness, stimulated my already paroxysmal nerves. Gu Onchuan's smug smile kept flashing before my eyes. The fear of the unknown spread through me. Looking around, I suddenly paused. In front of the bed, my senior brother was sitting in a swivel chair, flipping through a paper document. He glanced at me, his tone hard with a cold mockery. "Gu Si Miao, long ago I asked you to go solo with me, what did you say? All day long fighting geese was pecked out by geese." He suddenly gave a beat, his tone was full of helplessness. "What are you crying for?" "Well, I'm not scolding you." "Who cried?" "Back to God, my face has been a cold." I asked my senior brother why he came, and he smiled meaningfully. After a long time, I realized that it was because I had sent him a string of meaningless gibberish before I passed out, and when I didn't answer the phone or reply to messages, he realized that something was wrong. As the most important technical partner of the Gu family, he has of course received an invitation to the birthday party of the Gu family's eldest daughter. But the technology is in a critical period. He arrived a little late. When he received the news, he just arrived at the hotel door. After rushing to my location through the positioning of my watch, he found a man in waiter's clothes holding me up at the door of a lounge. Inside the lounge, it was Liu Jianxun, Gu's partner, who had extended his hand to pick me up. It was elder brother who walked over and excused Liu Jianxun on the pretext of a family matter and sent him away. Elder brother pointed to the corner by the bed. When I came, directly opposite the bed, supported 4 cameras. Watching the dark and cold cameras crumble to the floor. A chill crawled up from the soles of my feet. Ridiculous! Ridiculous! Underhanded! That ridiculous bit of warmth from Gu's father that day. The focus wasn't even on bringing Gu Anquan to recognize him, but to make amends to Liu Jianxun. He was trying to squeeze the heat out of my flesh and blood and bones, using them thoroughly. It was I who was wrong, so wrong. Wrong in thinking about those 25 years together and not wanting to just pull out and leave. There are some people who just shouldn't be treated like people. A sudden clamor came from the doorway, and the door to the room was violently kicked open. "Sister, are you all right, sister?" Gu Anquan's shrill voice tore through the calm. I turned my head and saw several acquaintances. I lifted the covers and stood up, gazing at Gu Anquan as I took a step towards her. Gu Anquan's eyes gurgled and locked onto her senior brother sitting in the corner. "Sister, is he the one who tried to hurt you? Don't worry, with me here, you won't." "Ah." I raised my palm and fiercely threw it at her face. The force was so great that it directly lifted her to the ground. "Gu Si Miao, what are you doing? I didn't see you at the end of the banquet. I heard that you were picked up. I came to save you with good intentions, even if I came late. What are you mad about?" Gu Anquan got up from the ground and went crazy, trying to come and push me, and was kicked away by me again. Just in the end, only just been hit by an unknown drug. After exerting myself, my body was as if I was deflated, cold sweat pouring straight out, my body disengaged, nearly falling towards the back. Powerful arms caught my faltering body. The familiar scent of grass and trees came from behind me. It was senior brother. "Gu Anquan, put away your little tricks. No one is stupid enough to see what disgusting things you are playing," I said coldly. And then swept over the familiar-looking young ladies of the gentry. Most of them were second generation who didn't inherit the company and loafed around. I've seen them before but wasn't familiar with them. But to be able to grow up in a luxurious family, how many of them are stupid? Seeing me look over, they snorted and comforted me. "Miss Gu, don't worry, no one else will know about what happened today. I'm fine, they're just here to watch the fun, but if I do get hit today, they'll be skillful enough to hold my hand." As the crowd dispersed, I looked at Gu Anquan, who was lying on the ground wailing and crying, and asked her somberly, "Did father arrange for you to come?" Her eyes flashed as she cursed, "Gu Si Miao, what gives you the right? I'll make sure you get out of the Gu family. So it's because of this. If I were to lose my reputation, I would no longer have any value, and my father and mother would very decisively give up on me. It's just that father designed me to be a reparation gift to Liu Jianxun, and if it really came to fruition, then it should have been kept secret, instead of making this matter public, so that people could see how shameless the Gu clan is. Gu Anquan's move would only offend Liu Jianxun to death. Even if it didn't work out, there was no more possibility of cooperation. Because this new heir of the Gu family was truly stupid. I've said it many times, but you don't seem to believe me. I laughed, extremely contemptuous. This mess of the Gu family, only you guys treat it as a treasure. Senior student, congratulations, the Gu family is completely yours. Gu Si Miao. Gu Anquan screamed behind her. No longer has anything to do with me. Before she reached the lift, Gu's father, who had learned of the disturbance, hurried over. "Gu Simeon, stop!" He glared angrily. "Tomorrow I'll go to you and move my account out." I pressed down the anger in my heart and said in a cold voice. Gu's father was startled, then thought of something else, and contemptuously flung out a pile of information. "You want to leave just like that?" Densely packed on it was the money the Gu family had spent on me since I was a child. It was so detailed that even an exercise book bought in primary school was included. There's more than 30 million here. It's the money the Gu family spent on you. If you can't return it to the Gu family, you can be a slave in the Gu family. Our Chun is still short of a living assistant. Senior suddenly laughed. And here, how come there's also the salary paid to Si Miao over the years? Mr. Gu, when you Gus fire someone, do you need to return several years of salary together? Gu's father choked, glanced contemptuously at the plain dress on his senior brother, and sneered, "What the hell are you? It's your turn to speak here?" Turning his head, he still had that lofty attitude, as if commanding, "Gu Si Miao, control your concubine." "And what the hell are you? Get lost!" I directly cursed out, "No longer leave any mercy." "I want to leave." Gu father to stop. Gu Anchuan also rushed out of the room, teeth and claws to rush to beat me. The scene was in chaos, infinite murmurs converging together, piercing into my already unrecovered nerves like an awl. Elder brother pulled out a blood sample from his pocket and said to Gu's father with a smirk, "This is the blood sample I just drew from Si Miao's body, and I've left the hotel surveillance behind, so guess what will happen if I call the police?" Gu's father was like a duck that had been strangled, and suddenly banned his voice. To the list Gu father took out that day, I redrafted a list of reasonable cultivation funds, including tuition fees for the noble school, meals before work, and clothing. For so many years, what I got from the Gu family, what I could cherish, was perhaps only good educational conditions. If it wasn't for the Gu family, I wouldn't have been able to get so much exercise. I probably would have been bummed out and lived a mediocre life as well. But now, even though everything fell into place, I still had the eyesight of having seen the world above me, and the valuable experience of making decisions about a company with a market value of hundreds of millions of dollars. My life was already different. By signing off, I was saying goodbye to the past for good. Packing up what I wanted to take with me, in bits and pieces, I only packed 2 boxes. Most of them were books that sat full of notes, and when I dragged them out of the Gu mansion, Gu Anchuan was sitting on the sofa, looking at me with dark eyes. Or consider that I have a handle on my hand, they did not make any more trouble. Gu Anchuan only just looked back home, and the father and mother to me so cold, ruthless, also had a sad, but out of the door, the moment the sun shines down, and feel that the future is more worthy of my expectations. They don't deserve my meddling. Suppressing the surging emotions in my heart, I said so to myself. At the entrance of the Gu family's mansion, my senior brother was leaning against the car, his fingertips lighting a cigarette that had been flickering with scarlet flames. He saw me and stubbed out his cigarette. The sunlight hit his handsome side face. At that moment, his smile seemed to be permeated with light, his voice was clear and permeated with laughter. "Coming?" I also received, "Coming." The development of the new company with my elder brother is still a bit bumpy. The new technology encountered a lot of tests in the landing. In order to reduce costs and increase efficiency, my elder brother and I, as well as a group of research and development personnel in the laboratory inside the death of a whole half a month. We came out of the lab grimy, but with smiles on our faces. Teacher Su is simply amazing. Teacher Gu too, I thought there was no way out. They chattered and laughed, coaxing us to treat us to dinner to celebrate this breakthrough. I responded, directly contacted the previous most often feast partners restaurant Sifangxian, greeted a group of people at 6:00 p.m. Do not see. They cheered the boss atmosphere, joyful home to change clothes. Elder brother and I walked at the end, softly asked me, "Tired?" "It's okay, it's much better than when I was working for Gu before, at least there's no heavy burden. Let's go somewhere with me after dinner." He suddenly spoke, his eyes drifting a bit to look away. I suddenly had some premonitions, and my heart fluttered. Good. Only just arrived at the restaurant, something went wrong. Is the 4-direction Xian now accessible to anyone? Gu Anchuan, together with Gu's father, walked from the doorway of the 4-direction Xian to me, looking me up and down with contemptuous eyes. Gu Simeon, the 4-direction Xian is a membership system. You wouldn't be so shameless as to still use the identity of the Gu family's first lady to woo me, would you? Gu Si Miao, look at you now, away from the Gu family, you are nothing. Gu's father towered over me, full of contempt. I was very irregular in my work and rest because I had been in front of the computer all this time, and my face was haggard. I was also wearing the most convenient casual clothes, unlike before, because I have to be the face of Goo's family. Every day, even if I am tired, I have to fling myself into an exquisite urban beauty. It looks, indeed, not very different from before. Senior glanced at them. What dog is barking here? I let out a harumph and crossed over these two with him, heading inside the Sifangxian. I guess the rope isn't tied properly. Gu Wanchuan's two faces turned green with anger. Gu's father suddenly opened his mouth in a condescending tone. Gu Ximiao, since you're doing so poorly outside, I'll give you a chance to come back to Gu's and be Anchuan's assistant. What I got was only my back. The deepest irony to someone is ignorance. Gu's father was furious and jumped to his feet. Gu Anchuan shouted for security to kick me out, but then I heard the staff of Sifangxian say, I'm sorry Miss Gu, Mr. Su is our senior VIP here, I don't have the authority to kick people out. In the end, I heard Gu Anchuan curse and say, I thought you were so noble, but it turns out that you're just a man. Family misfortune. It's funny that the first time Gu Anchuan recognized me as a family member after her return was at this time. Senior frowned in displeasure and had the security guards invite that father-daughter duo out. There's nothing to be angry about, I don't care anymore. But I don't care. But I care, they can't talk about you like that. Shifu looked serious. I paused. Suddenly, I began to look forward to the after-dinner appointment that elder brother had made. Eat, a colleague heard of the farce just now, chat gossip like, and we said, I heard some time ago, Gu's out of a lot of chaos, the new official 3 fires, directly overthrowing the small Gu teacher before leaving a lot of plans, chaotic decision-making. Good, 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 good. The good project made a mess, did not find a party to the project money, looking to pay the bank loan, but also out of the president of the embezzlement of public funds. Now a lot of people are waiting to see Gu's joke, the stock has been down for several days. Normal people really can't do this kind of thing, but who let the Gu family's current executive president, is that Gu Anchuan who even wants the company watch for himself? Little teacher Gu, you mustn't pay any attention to those people from the Gu family, waiting for you to go back and clean up the mess. The words ended like this. Turning to them, they talked cheekily about other interesting things about the company. There seemed to be some dust in their hearts that gradually faded away. After the celebration, it was already past 9 o'clock. I sat in my brother's car, the car music is melodious and gentle. I accompanied the group to drink a few cups, hot air on the face, and the atmosphere of dizziness fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, the vehicle was still on the road, surrounded by countryside. Out of the bustle of the city, the quiet countryside can hear the sound of insects. The night sky is as black as ink, dotted with stars that cannot be seen in the city. The car was parked on the side of the road, and senior brother raised his wrist to look at his watch. Simeon, the teacher approached me yesterday. I gave a beat. He was talking about our mutual graduate advisor, Teacher Chin. That was a very good teacher, she not only took me to do experiments and imparted knowledge, but also taught me a lot about being a human being, and even more so, a motherly presence in my heart. I have not seen her for 4 whole years, recalling the last meeting, it was she pointed to the door, said if I left, never go to see her again, the last unhappy. That year you had to give up scientific research to inherit the family business, but you made your teacher very angry. Elder brother couldn't help but lose his smile when he thought about that year. What did the teacher say? Elder brother pressed the button on the center console and the vehicle's sunroof slowly opened. She told you to look at the sky. I looked up, only to see stars twinkling, and after blinking, a shooting star with unstoppable momentum pulled a light in the canopy, vowing to burn itself out just to briefly cut through the darkness of the night. Teacher said, the shooting star means the transformation of destiny, the past cannot be traced, the coming day can be expected. At this moment, though it was dark, I felt like I was bathed in sunshine. Those dust in my heart, under the light of that sun, had nothing to hide, and went up in smoke. Teacher knows about the recent events? I asked in a mute voice. No, she is very worried about you. Why don't we go see her together tomorrow? Good. On the way back, elder brother spoke up. I just made a wish while the meteor was passing by. I asked him what he wished for. He gazed at the road ahead, not daring to look at me, his ears turning red. With you. To see the teacher. The first 4 words were light and fast, like he was afraid of scaring someone. I pursed my lips. I may have wished. What? 2. Go see the teacher with my elder brother. I learned the way he spoke and deliberately teased him. The vehicle braked sharply, he shifted gears, pressed the handbrake, and turned his head to look at me with a burning gaze. Good. Whether it's the first 5 words or this entire sentence. After the new technology hit the ground, invitations to cooperate came pouring in, even waiting for invitations to bid on official projects. The new company personnel is not perfect enough. I not only want to be the executive president, to be the technical backbone, but also responsible for contract negotiations, 1 person as 3 people, but this labor is happy, because doing what you like, get the proceeds or into their own pockets, do not have to take all out to fill some unknown holes. When I saw Gu Anchuan downstairs in the company, my wonderful mood was greatly reduced. Some things exist to defile the eyes. I walked straight past her, and when she saw me, she looked like a warrior who had come for revenge. Gu Si Miao, I've found you. Gu Anchuan pointed at my nose, her tone sharp. You stole our Gu's core technology and you dared to take it to the official dance? No? What an open-mouthed awe. If you're sick, go cure it. Don't go crazy on us. I don't want to argue with her, it's a waste of time, and I beckoned for security, signaling for Gu Anchuan to be kicked out. Gu Si Miao, you left Gu's and deserve to stay out of peer-to-peer work for 3 years. Gu Anchuan was dragged out by the security guards, her mouth roaring in irritation to the extreme. I snorted, not making any unnecessary arguments. Non-compete? Ridiculous, not to mention that when I left my job, I didn't sign a non-compete agreement at all, and even if I did, an agreement without compensation is just a piece of scrap paper. What I didn't expect is that I didn't get the technology from me. The Gu family jumped over the wall and directly filed a lawsuit against me for violating trade secrets. But so what? Between me and the Gu family, I didn't owe them anything. After hiring a lawyer, I didn't even have to go to court. The day I got the official project, the results of the first trial also came out. I was not guilty. I was happily counting my money when I learned about the Gu family again. It was my assistant who loves to gossip and said it as a laughing stock after tea. Gu Anchuan, poor people at first rich, spend money without restraint, and the Gu family to collapse, directly rolled money to run away, but she is too stupid, outside or use their own ID card, not 2 days to be caught by the police, into the bureau. The money she took away was recovered, but Gu's bankruptcy was already on the cards. The Gu family took the public money as their own. Public and private is not clear. In the Gu's bankruptcy, all the property is lost to fill the hole. Gu's father and mother lost their favorable living conditions, but they were not willing to lose face, and used their cards to support their credit cards to max out their credit cards, and they both became bad creditors and were restricted from high spending. During one of their arguments, Gu's father accidentally beat Gu's mother into a vegetative state. Gu's father was given a suspended sentence because he was the sole guardian. Because she had no money, Gu's mother was not properly cared for and soon went. Gu's father was alone, used to living high on the hog, couldn't pull his weight to work, and with no money he had to grab a bridge hole with the homeless. I do not know the night by the cold wind blowing by the river. He will not resent sentence to probation, did not eat early in the country. What surprised me most was Liu Jianxun. The assistant said that he was found by the police to have seduced and raped a number of women. The video, the record of the purchase of ecstasy and other evidence is conclusive, was sentenced to 20 years. Thinking of the blood sample in my brother's hand that day, and when he said afterwards that I didn't need to care about this matter anymore, lest it caused bad memories, my steady heartbeat gradually went out of order. The following days were orderly and fulfilling, and with the hard work of my brother and I and a group of employees, our company grew bigger and stronger, even surpassing Gu's peak moment. In the New Year's annual meeting, I announced that 50 of the company's profits will be brought to the staff to send year-end awards. The bottom of the staff cheers boiled back to the sky. Fed up with being squeezed by capitalists, I don't want to be that disgusting capitalist. What's more, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for these employees. That day, amidst their uproar, my elder brother proposed to me. Life still hasn't changed much. I worry about my company, just like I worry about my cubs, still three-handedly, busy as hell. My elder brother also stayed in the lab all day long, and the most we talked about was the progress of our experiments. After hiring Miss Cheen as our company's technical consultant, she found that my brother and I were addicted to work all day long, and the first request she made to us was to let us both take a hard wedding leave. Strongly suspended from work, my senior brother and I stood in front of the company, looked at each other, and burst out laughing in unison. We held hands as we headed home, planning our trip to the island. The sun was shining in front of us and the road ahead was bright.